Serious Read It. What's your most disturbing, scary, or creepy true story? In 3rd grade, I had this strange, short teacher named Mrs. Told. She was always super nice to me in class. She'd always call on me to do the fun activities first, compliment me whenever I did something, and was generally just very positive toward me. At the time, I thought she was perhaps my favorite person in the world. I remember even telling my mother about how much I loved Mrs. Told. Anyway, one day I sat down at my desk and opened it up to put crap in it when shockingly, I saw that there was a Victoria's Secret magazine sitting in the pull-out drawer. The kid sitting next to me noticed how shocked I thought I was going to get in trouble, and we started talking about how it might have got there. Almost immediately, Mrs. Todd walks up, asks, "What have you got there?" I was seriously confused and told her I was sitting at my desk when I got here this morning. Well, she looks at me and tells me that the kid sitting next to me must have put it there. She kept repeating that statement over and over again to both him and me until I finally admitted that I guess he could have put it there. Maybe a few days after that, she approached me after class to tell me about this special field trip I could go on if I kept doing good in class. It would be a trip with just her and me to the Gulf of Mexico for the weekend. I remember being really excited about it at the time. However, suddenly she got replaced at the school, and we got this new teacher that didn't like me as much. I was so heartbroken. At the time, it wasn't until many years later that I realized how up that situation was. It scares me thinking about it still. When I was about 8 years old during recess at school, I noticed a bunch of other kids outside a storage room yelling and warning others not to approach the door because here was an eyeball staring back at you. I was curious because I didn't understand what they meant, but I could see their fear was real because their faces were pale white as they would try to deter me from taking a peek through the keyhole. I remember bending down slightly so I could get a closer look inside, and sure enough, there was an eyeball staring back at me, and it freaked me out so much I peed my pants on the spot. It was only later in the day, after I had ended up at the nurse's office because of the commotion we kid had created, that the janitor had to go into the room to inspect what this whole mess was about. Turns out that someone had placed a mirror against the door, and the eyeball we were seeing was our own reflection. When I was 7 years old, I was walking to my babysitter's house all by myself. She only lived a block from the schoolyard. I'd done it all the time. This car pulls up beside me on the road, and the driver keeps gesturing to me to come closer and shouting, "Come here, come here." I'm frozen on the sidewalk and shaking my head no while my knuckles turn white, clinging to my backpack. All he says before driving off is to stay away from Christina, and then I never saw him again. Christina was one of my on-again, off-again friends in grade the school, along with another girl who alternated between hating me and being buddy. Had completely forgotten about it after a while and went on being on-again / off-again with both of them. In 5th grade, the other girl invited me to the pop machine in the back hall at lunch. Cool, okay, quality time with a girl I've known since I was a baby. Sure, we get back to the classroom and Christina tells me that people were playing with my lunch and hiding my stuff, but she was nice enough to bring it back for me. I started drinking the pop I brought for lunch, and something was really off. I spit it out and ran for the water fountain to rinse my mouth out. Turns out Christina and her sister had topped up my drink with Lysol. If I drank much more, I probably would have been stupidly sick. The police were called, and a restraining order was put on both of them. It was delightfully ineffective, however, because the school was so small. There was no separate class to put them, and they got 3 and 4 day suspensions. I have no idea if the two events are related, who that man was, or how he knew how bad Christina was at the time. But that memory sticks with me to this day. I was outside playing with friends one afternoon. We were around 9 or 10. We lived in a quiet area. As we were playing, we noticed a man in a truck drive by over and over again. Each time he passed my friend's yard, he would drive slowly. We then realized that this man was recording us with one of those old handheld recorders. It freaked us out. We ran inside their house and called his mom. She told them they needed to stay inside and that I should go home. I tried explaining that my mom wasn't home at the moment, but she still made me leave. I lived about a mile or 2 down their road. I've never run so fast in my life. I was terrified that man was going to find me as I was running back home. When my mom found out what happened, she was super pissed off. My friend's mom hadn't allowed me to stay at their house until she could come to pick me up. Probably just my entire life would count as a disturbing, scary story. My mother and grandmother were always extremely protective of me. As a child, I grew up forbidden to visit friends or family, walk down the street, go outdoors by myself, or even cook or drive. It got worse and worse as I grew older. I mean, I was 19 and my mother forbade me from having a job. She told me that I had everything that I needed right there with her. I didn't need money. I decided that enough was enough and saved up some money from doing laundry and finding change around the house, swiping what I could here and there, and I had to hide it. Well, she would steal it from me if she found it. She said that all money was hers and hers alone. I packed my bags one day and tried to leave. She actually tackled me to the ground and dragged me back inside. With my grandmother's help, had my phone reported stolen and took it from me so that I couldn't make calls, and slept beside my bed to make sure that I didn't sneak away. She took me to a church meeting one day, holiness, and had the demons blast out of me. For 3 hours solid, no one would help me. She had them all convinced that I was nuts and needed help. She even recruited a cousin on my next attempt. Weeks later, when I actually got a bus ticket to come and trick me into the car, cousin told me that she was protecting me, helping me, but she wanted to talk to. I first shut the car door on me after I got in. It had a child safety lock on it. They drove me home and kept me isolated for a solid year before I could get help. Some of my relatives even parked their cars in the driveway for a while to keep me from leaving. I'm in my room sitting in front of my computer, working late at night as usual. I have to go pee, so I head out the door. I'm staying with family for a few weeks, so I try to be super quiet to avoid waking anyone up. To get to the bathroom, I have to go around a sort of left-handed U-turn. I've stayed in this house for a month or so every year for as long as I've been alive, and I've done a lot of midnight PS, so I know the way by heart. I go out the door, take a few steps left, turn, turn down the hall and into the bathroom. I turn the light on in the bathroom, do my business, turn the light off, and start making my way back towards my room. I don't want to turn on the hall light at this point again to avoid disturbing family, so I'm basically blind. I feel my way down the hallway, right turn, a few steps, right turn, and suddenly, holy, I swear, I saw a shadow or something move. I stop dead and listen as hard as I can, still totally blind. Nothing, so I take another few steps and I swear to God I saw a shadowy figure move towards me, directly towards me, out of the solid wood door to my room. I stop again and feel panic start to set it. This is the creepiest thing I've ever experienced since childhood nightmares, and I used to have some pretty up ones like that. My dad was trying to kill me. I'm not imagining things. I definitely saw a shadowy thing moving towards me in the dark. I take one more step towards my room, close enough to the door to grab the handle, and the shadowy, creepy as hell thing moves towards me again. It's getting bigger every time. It's right in front of my face, inches away, but I can't quite focus on it. I start to seriously freak out. I actually consider calling for help. Sleeping family be damned. And that's when my nose bumps into the mirror that hangs on the wall next to my door at a 90-degree angle to it. Turns out I got totally disoriented and never made my second right-hand turn. The end. When I was 4 years old, my father, stepmother, and baby brother all died in a highway collision with a semi-truck they parked on the side of Highway 84 in West Texas between Lubbock and Oberlin. They stopped to check on the baby, who was having a fit. The semi-driver had been over his hours and veered onto the shoulder and hit their car, going downhill at about 70 miles per hour while they were stationary. No one but the semi-driver survived the ensuing damage and fire. Being 4, I hadn't been around him that much since my parents split, so I to this day don't have any recollection of him at all, but I ended up attending Texas Tech in Lubbock and consequently drove past the exam same spot on my way to and from due to Lubbock. I decided to research the incident, and I found an article of someone who saw the accident and called for help. They lived in the house, at least up until when the article was written and put on the internet, but they always described seeing the young family, my family, from the crash, walking along the side of the highway, continuing their journey but never getting any close to their destination. Sadly enough, they were coming from Albuquerque to hasten to pick me up for a few months. I was actually at a loss when I found the story. I broke down, which was weird because I never knew this person. They are a part of me, and I don't even know who this is. I attempted to find the spot of the accident by asking some locals who are surprisingly remember the incident from the late in the 90s. I was able to find the approximate spot, and I took a couple of moments of silence while I was there just to show respect. It's one of the stranger stories. I have went to my aunt and uncle's house on one family vacation about 10 years ago. We drove from South Texas to some small town in Missouri, can't remember the name. We arrived there at 1 a.m. The family consisted of myself, 2 younger sisters, mother, father. Most of the family was hungry from the long drive and wanted to see if a McDonald's was open. I was tired from the long car ride and wanted to stay at the house. Mom said one of my sisters would be staying as well. I settled down into the living room watching TV. TV slightly dozing off. I can remember hearing Peter patter down the hallway and assumed my sister was just running around. She'd been eating sugary snacks the whole way up. I get a call from my mom asking what I wanted to eat, and in the background can hear both my sisters arguing. I hear a giggle somewhat behind me, stand straight up and look around. Nothing. I asked my mom if my sister ended up going with them, which she confirmed I stood in the corner of the room till everyone got back. I didn't think I had anything really creepy to post about until I started reading through them and read something similar to an experience I had. It started around my sophomore year in high school. I began getting creepy texts and phone calls, but never really thought much of them since in those days prank. The call was a common thing to do. The messages and calls would come in consistently for a few weeks, then would stop after a while. I honestly would forget they had even happened until they'd start back up again around my junior year. The calls began getting creepier. They would call my house number along with my cell phone. This was around the time cell phones were starting to get popular. So while some of my older friends still had my house number, it wasn't something I would give out to people anymore. When I started dating, they began calling my then boyfriend and would tell him awful things about me and sometimes even know where I was at the time and ask him to question my whereabouts. It caused a lot of issues between us, but again they would stop after a while, and apart from wondering who it could be, I never thought much of them again. Fast forward to college. I stopped talking to a lot of my friends from high school, even deleted old MySpace accounts and cleared friends from Facebook because I wanted to have a fresh start. I was still dating the same guy, but really stopped having contact with most of the people I knew from high school halfway through my freshman year. The calls and text messages started again, this time with even more personal details about my life. Thanks for listening. The subscribe button and activate the notification bell for more things you don't want to know. Let us know in the comments what you think about these stories.